Before I formally introduce our speakers today, I would like to take this moment to thank Bell Canada, represented by Renato De Senza, for being the sponsor of today's luncheon. I would also like to welcome 5 groups of students to today's lunch. They are St. Patrick Catholic Secondary School, sponsored by Alliance Atlantis, Brayworth College School, sponsored by Incook Limited, Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute, sponsored by Scotiabank, and Havergal College and the Hawthorne School, sponsored by the De Lorenzo family and Diamante Development. Students, would you please stand so we can recognize you? And thank you to each of our student table sponsors. And now I would like to introduce today's speakers. It's a super fall for any political junkies in the crowd and out there in media land. In Ottawa, we've got the same-sex marriage issue resurfacing, and we all know that's an issue that's bound to bring back some pretty heated debate. Here in Toronto, we're in the midst of a mayoralty race, sort of. And across the country, we're heading into the home stretch for the race to be the new leader of the Federal Liberal Party. And we're very pleased to have 3 of the 4 frontrunners in that race with us here today. After the super weekend of delegate voting just over a week ago, Michael Ignatieff emerged as the frontrunner, with several of the pursuing candidates dropping back as the campaign turns into the home stretch. But, as recent political campaigns the world over has shown us, it ain't over till it's over. So the most interesting part of the race might still be coming. After all, anything can happen in the heat of a convention floor battle. Just look back to the 1996 Ontario Liberal Leadership Contest, when a guy named Dalton McGuinty scooted up the middle from seemingly out of nowhere. There's plenty of jockeying to be done between today and the early December finish line. And with us today are 3 of those candidates who all still have a legitimate shot at winning. Good news for those of us who enjoy political debate. Democratic debate is alive and well within the Liberal Party. That is good news for the future of the Liberal Party, and good news for those of us here in person or watching on television from home. Now, before I introduce them, I would just like to say that this is a departure for both the Canadian Club of Toronto and the Empire Club of Canada from our usual single-speaker luncheon format. But since we're now 110 and 103 years old, respectively, we thought it was time to do things a little bit differently once in a while. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I want to thank Mr. Dion, Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Ray for being such good sports and allowing us to bring you a live taste of this debate. And now a few words about our speakers. Stéphane Dion, of course, hails from Quebec. The son of an academic, he was a political scientist lecturing at the University of Montreal until recruited to run for a federal seat by Prime Minister Chrétien in 1996. A strong federalist, he has represented the Quebec riding of Saint-Laurent-Cartierville since then, was Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs under Jean Chrétien, and Environment Minister under Paul Martin. Hailing from Depar, Manitoba, and the son of a politician, Gerard Kennedy attended Trent University in Peterborough and is well known to Ontarians as Executive Director of Toronto's Daily Bread Food Bank from 1986 to 1996. Most recently, until he threw his hat into this particular ring, he was Education Minister in the McGuinty government and held the provincial seat of York South, a riding previously held by a 3rd speaker. Our 3rd speaker, of course, is Bob Rae, who hardly needs any introduction, being Ontario's Premier from 1990 to 1995. Many of you may also remember that Mr. Rae was in federal politics before becoming the leader of the provincial NDP party. And since leaving provincial politics, he has headed the probe into the Air India disaster, authored a report on higher education for the Ontario government, and travelled to such places as Iraq as an advisor on democratic institutions. Keeping everything and everyone under control, today will be our moderator Amanda Lang, co-anchor of Report on Business TV Squeeze Play, and of course the director of the Canadian Club of Toronto. Amanda has prepared some questions for the candidates, and she will also open the floor to questions from our live audience. So if you would like to ask Mr. Rae, Mr. Kennedy, or Mr. Dion a question, please write it on one of the cards provided on your table, and our volunteers will collect it from you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to turn things over to our very capable moderator. So as they make their way over, well, they've already made their way over, Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our candidates for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada, Gerard Kennedy, Stéphane Dion, and Bob Rae.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying I'm delighted to be here. I'm not one of those journalists who dislikes politicians. In fact, it gives us somebody to look down on, so why would we? But I do want to say I have great admiration and respect for anybody that puts their name on a ballot. I wanted to acknowledge all of the leaders in this, the leadership candidates in the race. We couldn't accommodate them all. They're here in spirit, and Martha Hall Finley is here in person, and we appreciate that. Instead of becoming a partner in a law firm that it's like winning a pie-eating contest and the prize is more pie, I think that this is sort of similar. The prize is dubious to some of us, but I'm sure well sought after by all of you. We do, of course, have time constraints, and so we are going to limit your opening remarks to 2 minutes each, and questions, both mine and from the floor, to 1 minute each. This may kill one of them. I don't know which one, but I know politicians. We do need to be tight, though. We want to hear from as many of you as possible in your questions, and we will get right to it, including a question now to your opening remarks, in no particular order, simply from my right over to the left, so I give you the Honourable Bob Rae.
Thank you very much, Amanda, and let me start by saying I believe in politics and I believe in the political process. That might make me somewhat unconventional, but I happen to think it's very important, and I think it's what strikes a difference in a democratic society like ours is the fact that people are willing to come forward and believe strongly in a process in which we're engaging the public and engaging ourselves. For me, leadership is really about 2 or 3 things coming together. The first one is the ideas that we have, the vision that we share with our fellow Canadians. And for me, I've talked throughout this campaign about 4 critical issues. The first one is the prosperity of the country. Second one is the unity of the country. The third is our ability to share opportunity. And the fourth is our sustainability as an economy and our independence as a country in foreign policy. There will be ample opportunity in somewhat more than 2 minutes, I hope, to touch on each of these key issues. We have to invest more in education. We have to make sure that our colleges and universities are accessible to all Canadians. We pursue unity not by engaging in abstract theoretical discussions, but by being intensely practical on how we want to govern our country and how, in fact, we want to improve it. We share opportunity because this is what, in fact, makes us Canadians, our ability to share something throughout the country and to make sure that the good things in life do not belong only to a small group, but in fact are widely shared throughout the population. And we have to do it in a way that is sustainable because climate change is real and because these issues are ones that will not go away, and they do require action, and action has taken too long for governments to actually carry on. I think Canadians are far ahead of their governments when it comes to the question of the environment. And the independence of Canadian foreign policy is critical because it speaks to who we are as a people, our ability to find our voice in the world and to have the courage to express it clearly and emphatically as we go forward. There are many issues that require action on behalf of Canadians. We were right not to go into Iraq. We have to seriously look again at where we are in Afghanistan and make sure, in fact, that Canada is, remains, and always will be a voice for peace. And finally, just to conclude, because I know Amanda's getting a little edgy over here, I take great pride in my experience, in the fact that I was 20 years in elected politics. I have no regrets about that at all. I think it was a profound formative experience in my life, and one that I'm very proud to have been able to participate in, as well as the 10 years that I spent engaging in issues of public policy throughout the country, in terms of Air India and the higher education, reform of the Red Cross, and looking at federalism as a structure throughout the world. I believe that its leadership is about vision, it's about ideas, and it is about experience. It's about ability to put words into action. It's about ability to take ideas and actually make them work. I think I have that ability. I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim to be better than the Almighty, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't claim to be better than the alternatives. And although they're very good friends of mine. And we may even be closer as time goes on. But let me...
Come on over, Bob.
Let me conclude by thanking all of you and thanking my colleagues and Martha and saying how much I'm looking forward to answering questions and engaging in this intense discussion. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Stéphane Dion.
You just have to tell me when the 2 minutes are over, otherwise I will.
I will.
Good afternoon, Toronto. You saw me many times. I came here when I was Unity Minister, and we worked together about the unity of our country. I discussed with you about the relationship between Queen's Park and Ottawa, which has not been always easy, and we work on that very, very closely together. Minister of the Environment, when it was time to address issues like smog and acid rain and the Great Lakes, I came here and we had a very, very good relationship. I want now to focus on what I can do if I become the leader of our party and Prime Minister of Canada with your help. And I agree with everything Bob has said. I just think that it's important to succeed, to link what the Liberal Party may offer with the challenge of the century. And it will be practical. It will be practical, with a practical action plan, practical tax cuts and so on. But we Liberals are always good when we identify the issue of the century and we focus on it and we deliver. In the 20th century, the issue has been for a well-established democracy like Canada to link economic growth and social justice. Conservatives and NDP were not able to make this link. We were. It's why I am a Liberal. It's why I have been convinced it was the party and the approach for Canada. In the 21st century, these two pillars approach, economic vitality and social justice, will not be enough. You need to add a third one, and it is environmental sustainability, because the planet cannot follow us. And then the issues will focus on that more and more. Each day you see that. Today, what is the news in Canada? Because the news around the world, we know what it is. But in Canada, it is that you have acid rain more and more. Acid rain in Saskatchewan and Alberta, they never used to have that in the past. It's coming from the oil sands. So every day we see the challenges. We need to focus on them in bringing together economic vitality, environmental sustainability, and social justice to make a virtuous circle between the three. And all our action plan, all our policies must focus on that. Don't have the time to explain more, but let's say what I want to do about the pension plan is to change the regime of the pension plan to keep people at work if they want to. We have a pension plan today which is not adjusted for the economy of today. It's adjusted for the economy of yesterday. The economy where there was big unemployment rate. But now more and more you have a shortage of workers, and you need to help people to stay in the workforce if they want. This is the way to adjust social justice with economic vitality. It's the same with the environment. If we are able to have a sound environmental policy, what we will do, we will decrease the cost of energy. We will become more energy efficient in Canada. And energy costs is going up and up and up. And if we don't have strong energy efficiency in Canada, we don't have a strong economy. It's time to stop to oppose the environment and the economy and to see that they must go together. As Minister of the Environment, I brought the world together at the conference of the United Nations on climate change in Montreal last December at the Palais des Congrès. At the next meeting at the Palais des Congrès next December, it will be the Liberal Party that I want to bring together to make sure that Canada will be on the podium of the new industrial revolution, the sustainable economy. Thank you.
Gerard Kennedy.
Thanks very much. It is a great privilege. Je suis très fier d'être un candidat pour la chefferie du Parti libéral. It is really important, I think, that we stop taking Canada for granted. This is not just about my leadership or the other people that are here or Martha's. It's about yours. It's about a country that we've been complacent about. It's about a country, I think, that parents and grandparents and generations back made the sacrifices. Think of the important things we identify with this country in terms of health care, in terms of the education system, in terms of most of the basis for economic opportunity, and most of it came from things that were arranged and sacrificed for and done by generations past. What about us? What about this generation? What about the next? Can we sit here today and say that our children will have exactly the same opportunity when we have an aging population, we have a global economy becoming even tighter than it has been in the past? Can we say for certainty? And I say to you, why can't we? Why don't we have that ambition? Why don't we put ourselves forward in that way? I look at Ottawa and I see Mr. Harper, like I saw Mr. Harris in Ontario, and the thing that bothered me is not the ideological differences. What I saw was a lazy option. You get some of your money back, you get someone to blame, and you don't worry about your neighbors. Nothing worthwhile has ever been built that way. For the last 23 years, I've learned to believe in Canadians. Canadians who supported food banks when no one knew that people were going hungry. Teachers and parents who decided to turn around an education system in Ontario when people had basically dismissed it and many people had pulled their kids and gone elsewhere. But people who are prepared, I think, to lead themselves. To lead if a party could open up. If the Liberal Party of Canada can be an open party, not a club, doesn't belong to me. And at the end of this, I know this is shared by my colleagues, I don't want to see Kennedy Liberals, I just want to see Liberals. And I want to see Canadians feeling like they can be part of something that matters. A competitive economy based on unlocking the potential that people have. A new liberal value of enterprise, of getting that innovation and giving people the permission to have that motivation in government, in not-for-profits, and yes, in our private sector. And yes, an independent global voice. A Canada that today would be talking about Afghanistan in fundamentally different terms. That would be saying to NATO, we must revise that mandate so that it aligns to Canadian principles. If young Canadian men and women are going to be at risk, it'll be for things that we believe in. And we won't hesitate about that. And we should be working today to diversify the economy, to provide the aid, to do the other things that don't make military operations the only way of moving forward in Afghanistan. There's a Canada out there to be had. There's hard work that's involved. And I hope this leadership takes us a lot of the way there. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you all. Now, I am going to ask you to limit your answers to the following questions to 1 minute. I realize that doesn't do justice to some of the breadth of your understanding of these issues, but it's television, and that's how we work. I'm actually going to start, and I'll start with you, Bob, and we'll work our way over each of you to answer on the question of Afghanistan. Our young are not only at risk, they're dying. And while you answer the question whether we are doing the right thing, tell me what you would do differently.
Well, I don't think we are doing the right thing at the moment. I think there has to be a complete revision of the mandate. The fact of the matter is there's not going to be a simple military solution to what's going on in Afghanistan. And the idea that Canada would indefinitely be a part of an occupation by foreign forces in Afghanistan is also wrong-headed and is not going to work. So we have to develop a policy that's much more realistic. I think we have to sit down with our NATO partners, and that's fundamentally where I disagree with Mr. Layton, because I do think we owe that obligation to NATO and to Afghanistan to sit down and work through with them the question of how we can make sure that diplomacy and development assistance are given a much greater priority by our troops. I think we have to look much harder at significantly increasing the development assistance that we provide. I think we should be insisting on sharing the burden with our NATO allies in terms of what is taking place there. I don't think Canada should be bearing as much of a military burden as we have been asked to bear and as we have apparently assumed in terms of combat. And I think we just have to be much more realistic. There has to be much less rhetoric about where we are. I think we have to be intensely realistic as a country as to what we can in fact achieve in Afghanistan, given the conditions there, given the fact that we are a very different country in a very different place. I'm not an advocate of isolationism. I'm not an advocate of unilateral withdrawals, but I am an advocate of a very, very aggressive approach by Canada in terms of redefining the mandate that we now have and getting on with an intense discussion in NATO so that, in fact, we can deal with the situation as we find it.
Thank you. Stefan?
Exactly. What did we learn today? That a NATO general is saying that if nothing is done to rebuild the country in the coming months, it foresees that 70% of the people in Afghanistan may support the Taliban. I hope it's not true, because we are going nowhere. There is no way that Canada will be an occupying force. I'm supporting the mission because I'm still convinced that most of the people in Afghanistan want our protection. The very moment I know that it's not the case, I will not stay there, because we Canadians are not there to occupy another country. But this is the key point to me, and for that we need the information. We needed to know what Pakistan would do at the border, and now it's very clear that Pakistan is unable to control this border, and it's an information that we must to take into account when we design the mission. Because of a month ago, you may remember, Mr. Harper was saying, we won, we won. We went in the mountains and we killed some people. I hope it was Taliban and not farmers, as it has been told in some reports. And we say we won the war. And we see today that we won nothing. Because it's not a war against a conventional army that will come with a white flag one day and ready to negotiate. It's a war with terrorist attacks, when our soldiers are targets with little protection, and it may hold very long if more and more the population is going toward the Taliban instead of toward of us. And I'm not aware of any strategy that Mr. Harper put on the table about the crop, as long as it is the poppy. And if you are not able to use the poppy for illicit activity like pharmaceuticals, there is no way we may win this, quote, war. No way. So yes, we need to revisit the mission. We need to know how we may design it in a way that makes sense. And we should we should have voted for the 2 years extension in the blinded way, as Mr. Harper blackmailed the House to do a few months ago. It's very sad that some of us voted with him.
Thank you. I don't suppose you would already have considered yourself to have spoken on this subject, huh?
I'll add very briefly.
Please.
6 weeks ago, I called for a change in mandate. There are 3 interlinked crises that we need to understand. This is our decision. It's Canadian people's. It's not Mr. Harper's. There's an opium crisis that's now 52% of the economy, and Western nations had pledged for alternative economic development and not delivered. They have one of the lowest rates of aid, about $72 per person. Of any conflict country, it's going down to $42. We cannot win hearts and minds if we're not filling their stomachs. So there is a clear path forward. The Taliban have an ATM from the opium crop to buy weapons to use against our troops. No amount of security alone can stabilize a country until we're in the provinces that are pacified, we're building up economic development, and we're providing the aid. And we need the commitment of the whole international community. If not, we should leave in an orderly fashion after February 2007, with our heads held high, as a country that's provided the only other possibility, short-term security need, on a par with any other around the world. But there is a long-term rebuilding of a civil society there, but only if we take a leadership position and deal with the 2 other crises, so the security crisis doesn't become one that simply, as it is about to, take over the entire country.
Thank you. I'll ask one more question and then get to some of the very excellent questions, not all of them, I'm afraid, from the floor. On the economy, and I think this time we'll start at the other end, the Harper government just found $13 billion in surplus. Federal law dictates it goes to debt repayment. But what would you do with that kind of surplus maneuvering in your federal budget? Well,
$13 billion is a big surplus. I support it being, it's last year's money. I support it being used to reduce the debt. We still get only 81 cents in services for every dollar we pay in taxes, and so it is important we bring down that debt. And so tax cuts that don't apply in terms of making us more competitive, either bringing people into the workforce or making us compete better internationally, are not ones that we should be providing. I would not do the next GST cut, because that would give us more resources to invest where we need to. We have human capital that we have to bring forward. We have an immigration success gap. We have education inequality across this country. We have problems for women who are still making much less than men. And there are specific programs, childcare, for example, that I would invest in. There is a gap with the provinces. I was a provincial cabinet minister, and there is a problem from changes made in the 80s and 90s that needs to be rectified in a fair and objective fashion. So there are priorities that I think can be applied. the federal government and the provincial governments need to have one plan for this country moving forward, and we need to make our financial decisions once that plan comes together.
Stefan?
Just want to celebrate the fact that we have a surplus. And an unexpected surplus, bigger than expected. I think in this kind of public finance, the William Tell law is the good one. If you miss your target, it must be up, not down. Now, how to use it? The current law is you put that in the debt. Minister Goodale came with a change. The first 3 billion, so that is the margin for security, in the debt. And the extra surplus that you may have, a third for the debt, a third for targeted investments, and a third for tax cuts. So it's the usual liberal approach. I think it makes sense. But to come back to the GST cut, I think it's the old way to do politics. In fact, your income tax went up to pay for it. You will pay more taxes, not less, with Stephen Harper. And what I would do with the tax system myself, you would have tax cuts, but you would have to work a bit for it, because I will come with an environmental tax reform. If you want to retrofit your home, if you want to change your furnace, or your appliances, or your car, I will give you tax credit for it in order to change this society for good and to have an economy and a society which must less waste.
Bob?
Well, it seems to me, first of all, the law says it's got to go to debt reduction, so it's gone. But the fact is, we do have to think on a forward-looking basis on what do we want to do. The first thing is, we developed a strong allergy to deficits, and that's a good thing to do. Second thing we have to do is make sure that we're focusing all the time, focusing our attention on the kinds of tax cuts that are in fact going to increase productivity and going to improve the overall condition of the economy. The GST tax cut does not do that. And in fact, the direction that we know the country's headed in terms of the need for more green taxes means that there's going to be more taxes on the consumption side, in which case we have to reduce income taxes even further and focus our attention on lower and middle income Canadians to make sure that they're able to offset the impacts of higher energy prices, of higher home fuel costs, and all the other things that we know are in the works and in fact have already been here for some time. Then we need to address the challenge of poverty in this country. It has gone on for far too long, where we have addressed the problem of poverty among seniors to some extent. We have not matched it with respect to ordinary families and with respect to children. The existence of the amount of poverty in this country today, in an economy like Canada's, is a national disgrace and something that needs to be addressed directly by our governments, both federal and provincial.
I have a question from the floor. It's to all candidates. I'll begin with you, Stéphane Dion. National unity is threatened by feelings of Western alienation, a rise in the separatist sentiment in Quebec, and animosity exhibited in the Maritimes. How do you propose to unify our country?
I think all this is untrue. We have a strong country, and these difficulties between regions are normal. We should stop to always antagonize regions in saying that if you have a disagreement in the country, then you should put the country at risk. Other countries have this kind of difficulties. They don't discuss it about national unity. I know most of my friends in the United States or in France are upset with their government. None of them is separatist because of that. So, yes, you will always have different views. Mr. Chrétien used to say we Canadians have two convictions. The first one is that we have the best country in the world. And the second one is that our province doesn't have its fair share. And maybe it will always be like that. And it doesn't stop Canada to be an incredibly good country. And I will say again and again, the problem is not Canada. The problem is the separatist ideology. And we need to argue with our fellow citizens who think that they would be happier if they were not Canadian, to explain them what kind of country they have in their hands. And we have all ideas to improve it, otherwise we will not be in politics. But to improve a country is not the same than to say that if it's not my way, then the country must fall apart. So this is my answer. Please stop to put Canada on the table each time we have a disagreement.
Bob?
I agree with Stéphane. I would put it a little bit differently because from my experience, I guess, sitting and having been a premier, is I think the first thing that we have to learn how to do as Canadians is really listen. Almost close your eyes and just listen to what it is you are hearing. Because behind some of the grievances, there is reality. And there are legitimate concerns. And they have to be addressed. I agree with Stéphane when he says, let's not make addressing those concerns always a matter of national unity and always a matter about it's my way or the highway or my way or the breakup. But let's not make the reverse mistake of being seen to simply celebrate whatever is and then be interpreted by others as simply not being sensitive and listening to the concerns that there are. From my experience, there are concerns in the provinces about the imbalance between the federal surplus, if you like, and the challenges that provinces face in dealing with education and health care and infrastructure costs for municipalities. These are real issues. They're not going to go away, and they're always going to be there. That isn't to say that you're ever going to meet a mayor or a premier who says, I have enough money. You're not. It's a reality because they're always going to be looking for it. But the key challenge that we face, as I said in my opening remarks, is not to engage in abstract philosophical discussions about the nature of the country or the thought that there's one simple formula that we're going to be able to find that will resolve the constitutional riddle. It is much rather to deal with the practical, real problems that we face and to deal with them in a thoughtful, creative, innovative fashion. And that's, it seems to me, how you reduce the amount of misunderstanding and the amount of hard feeling that there might exist. I will never promise that I will resolve these great issues in terms of grievances for all time, because no one will. But I do think that if we face them practically and in a constructive spirit, we can, in fact, reduce the amount of tension and we can increase the sense that this is a truly wonderful country and a great country to celebrate, which is how I think we all feel about Canada.
Gerard?
Well, look, I think we have to start with the premise that Canada is more than the sum of its parts. That Confederation isn't just about the provinces asking the federal government for things. And if we're not feeling, and divisions can be real, if we're not feeling like we're headed someplace, it's because we may not be. We need to have a unifying theme for this country. We need to see ourselves, in my view, as the country that will come to terms with globalization and actually influence those terms in favor of working families here in Canada and elsewhere in the world. It's again something we should not take for granted. The sense of purpose is important. I come from Western Canada. I grew up there, and the sense that is there is real. But it's not against Canada. It's in favor of a bigger Canada. It's in favor of a Canada that says if you grow up in northern Manitoba or some other place, maybe in Alberta, you can actually be a part of leading this country. You're not an add-on. You're not the West. And it's about fundamental respect. You know, whether we like it or not, whether the National Energy Program, the signing of the Constitution, those are real grievance points. But what lies beneath that is a sense of people want into a Canada that's up to more things. And I think we can be there. I think we should be at the forefront of reforming international institutions like the WTO, the United Nations. You know, there's a peace builders group at the United Nations, the 10 countries most active in security and development, and we're not in the room. We're not doing enough anymore to qualify. We should be in that room. And we should see our trade and our relations all linked to the one thing that makes us so impactful that I think Canadians in every province would agree. It's our reputation. You know, we're the PI of the world in population, but we've got a heck of a lot more to give if we set that direction and draw all Canadians there. Those tensions will always exist, but they'll be diminished when we've chosen where we're going.
I've got a couple of questions now that I'm going to ask you to be as brief as humanly possible. If you can give a one-word answer, this is sort of the speed dating portion of the event, because they could both be very long conversations. As few words as possible to all of you. We know Prime Minister Harper's position on gay marriage. He intends to open the floor of the House. As Prime Minister, would you allow your party to vote according to their conscience on this issue and others like it? Why don't you begin, Bob?
You can never prevent people from voting for their conscience, but in my view, it's a party vote. It's a matter of human rights. And we should be saying as Canadians that equal means equal. And that means an equal right to an institution called marriage, That's what the Chief Justice of Ontario has said. That's what has been said by the Supreme Courts across the country, and that is what I believe in, and I stand by it, and I believe in it very, very strongly.
Stefan?
I suspect you will not have a lot of disagreements among the 8 candidates on this issue. It's a matter of human rights. It has been decided this way. Mr. Harper is revisiting it not only because of his neoconservative ideology, but because they want to weaken the Charter. You may know that recently they decided that the program that exists to help people to go in court when they are affected by a majority decision has been cut. Why do you think they are doing that? I think we have a government that has an agenda. What they are showing to us today is nothing about, if you compare with what they would do if they were a majority government.
Gerard?
Well, I agree that it's right. And what I am concerned about a government that would play mischief. This is about mischief. This isn't a government with conviction that says it will use the notwithstanding clause. It's playing mischief with Canadians. It's sowing divisions. There's been a vote. There was an opportunity. I'm not afraid of people voting their conscience on things that they believe in. I don't think we should put that down. But I think there has been a vote, and Mr. Harper has no intention of changing except by surreptitious means, except by what Stefan is implying. And I think that that should be resisted. I think that shouldn't be part of the political vocabulary on its own. And I think, Canadians have had a chance. It's been a difficult time in every riding across the country, but I think that discussion's been had. The right needs to be upheld, and Mr. Harper needs to be called out for what he's doing, which is simply trying to play for his electoral advantage.
Another short one. We will hold you to it. Win or lose, will you run in the next election? Gerard, why don't you start?
Yes.
Yes, I have already a riding.
Lucky you, yes.
Yes. 3 yes, it's good. This one on immigration, your position on helping qualified immigrants meet Canadian standards that allow them to employ the skills they bring with them and not have doctors and engineers drive taxis. Stefan, will you begin?
Oh, this is something that we cannot miss, because in 2010, 100% of the growth of our workforce will come from immigration. And I think other countries, some of the countries of our competitors are ahead of us about how to make sure that this workforce coming from immigration is matching your needs as a country. And we are in a tremendous good situation to succeed because we have a control of the access to the country. If you are in the United States with the border of the South, in Europe with Schengen, you don't control anymore within, without. You are in countries where you have millions and millions of human beings that don't have any status regarding the law of the land. We in Canada, we have this capacity. It's why I released a platform, a policy paper, how we may use more capacity in Canada to have an assessment of the jobs that are available in Canada and to help the people that are today in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, or coming in these communities, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, to go where the jobs are and to be well received and to have a year of adaptation that they need to feel comfortable. I think Canada must catch up about this issue.
Gerard?
Yeah, I feel it needs even a stronger response than what Stefan has outlined. Not very far from here, 2,000 PhDs, almost all of them foreign trained, this month will turn to a food bank. The flip side of that is $6 billion lost to the economy, the underutilization of skills. We need to be in the position to guarantee that we'll close the immigrant success gap. We need to make sure that credentials and experience are both recognized, and we need to make that a national project, and we need an officer, an advocate reporting to Parliament on the progress for this. Because it is different. We do need the immigrants to be here, but it's also a promise we've made. And people that are here as new immigrants after 10 years are making less money today than they did in 1980 relative to Canadian-born. This is an important challenge for us as a country to succeed. It's good for us, the rest of the country, but it's also, to me, essential that we've got multiculturalism not just based on tolerance, but based on respect for what people have to bring. And getting them a chance to do that is something that the provinces, private sector, and the federal government should be able to deliver with a guarantee to the people we invite and the people who are here already.
Bob?
3 points. I'd make 3 points very briefly. The first one is that I think we have to take another hard look at the point system to make sure that we've got the right people coming to fill the right spaces in Canada. I think we have to recognize that there are lots of job shortages at the moment, and we don't in fact have the people who are willing and able to do those jobs coming. And we have to face up to that as Canadians. Second thing we have to do is dramatically improve the information systems that we provide to immigrants before they come here, and we should be working with our colleges and universities and to make sure that in fact some training is going on in countries from which people are coming so that we're not wasting time. People apply, it takes them 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get permission to come, and during that time there's not enough being done to make sure that they're able to make the speedy transition. And the third thing is it's not just a matter for the federal government, it's a matter for the provinces, and I want to commend Premier McGuinty and his government for what they're doing with this issue. It's something that needs to be done in every province. We need to be taking a much more aggressive approach across the country on making sure that we break down these barriers. And yes, there is discrimination, and yes, some professional organizations are still acting too much like clubs, and they're not responding quickly enough to what needs to be an accountable process. The federal government and the provinces have to work with them to make sure that people who are qualified are able to get access quickly to the professional certification that they require and deserve. And it is a very basic question for the country. If we're going to remain a country that's open to immigration, which I certainly want us to be, we have to make sure that we're a country that's also open to opportunity and to people being able to turn their qualifications into actual work in the fields for which they're trained and qualified.
Thank you. We're just about at time. I'm going to ask the candidates to use the next question as their summary statement.
5-6 minutes.
About 1 minute each, and this one is serious. It is from the floor. Why are you the best individual to fight and beat Stephen Harper in the next election? And why don't we begin with you, Gerard?
Well, listen, I happily take that on. I'm not even saying I'm better than the other people that are here. I'm just saying I'm the right person for these times. This is a time for our country to become energized. It's a time for our country to look at itself and see the positives, but also not try and gloss over that we have people that have been left behind, that there is a need for average Canadians to really feel a part of their government. This is a trend we've been on for some time. And I'm not saying that I myself can do something about that, but I see myself as a different kind of leader, as a catalyst that can get people's confidence. I'm not delivering to those low expectations the way that Mr. Harper is. I'm not trying to squeeze out everything in terms of making it all clinical and surface a few decisions that make it look like I'm decisive. I instead would try hard to engage Canadians in what we need, a real dialogue about this country, a real sense of where we can go. There's several specific things that we need to do. We cannot do everything, but we can do them better if the country believes, if the country agrees, if we've had those hard discussions and we've forged a consensus. This is not about government. This is not about leading the people in Ottawa. This is about leading the country. And I've had that experience to engage Canadians. I have faith in them, and they've rewarded that faith in whatever I've done. And I think it's time for us, for Liberals in this crowd, for other people, leaders in business and other walks of life, to have that faith too, and let's bring this country forward. And on that basis, I'm applying for this job and asking for your support.
Very briefly, Stéphane.
Je veux battre Stephen Harper et je sais que je peux le battre, non seulement parce qu'il nous enlise dans l'Afghanistan et qu'il nous retire de Kyoto et que je ferai l'inverse, but also because he has a vision, and when he will become a majority government, if one day, unfortunately, it happens, we'll see this vision. For now, he's hiding it, just sending to us some messages of what he would do. And I know that the vision that I have will be embraced by the Canadian people at the next election. That this vision that is the most generous, the most ambitious one you may have for your country, which is to be sure that Canada will be part of the solution and not only part of the problem for the issue of the century, which is no less than to reconcile the people and the planet. Canada must be there. If a country like Canada does not do its share, does not give its share, who will do it? And I know that with Stephen Harper we will not, and with Stéphane Dion we will. And I know that I will be able to build a great team with the Liberal Party because I know this party. I have been there in the last 10 years. I've been able to work with Mr. Chrétien, Mr. Martin, with everyone. I have no enemy, only friends. I know that I'm ready. I'm ready to bring this party and this country together to be sure that Canada will do its share for ourselves, our children, the next generations, and Canada's role in the world. Merci.
Thank you.
Well, in 1979, I moved the motion that defeated the Clark government, and Mr. Trudeau was elected. And in 1985, I moved the motion that defeated the Miller government, the Conservative government, and Mr. Peterson was elected. So, a hat trick is a great Canadian tradition. And I really believe that we now have in place a Republican Conservative Party that attempts to divide Canada every step of the way. It is not simply a government that appeals to the lowest common denominator. It is a government that appeals only to its own supporters. It is the most intensely ideological government we have ever had in our history. And it is now, blessedly, only a minority government. I hate to imagine what it would be like as a majority government. So then the question becomes for the Liberal Party, how do we defeat Stephen Harper? Well, we defeat him by having a stronger vision ourselves, by putting the disputes of the past behind us, and by saying there's no room for arguments about personalities in the past. All we can have is unity. The second thing we have to do is recognize that unity has to extend beyond our own borders, that we're not, as Gerard has said, a club, that we're not a small group, that we're a generous, progressive, thoughtful political party that believes intensely in appealing to, yes, people who voted for the New Democrats in the past election, yes, people who voted for the Green Party in the last election, and yes, people who were progressive conservatives for a generation and 2 and 3 generations and feel they have no home left in Canada. And it's up to the Liberal Party to provide that home and to provide that clear alternative to Mr. Harper. The next election is not going to be about protest. The next election is not going to be about punishment. The next election is going to be the clearest evidence we've ever seen of the difference between a progressive party and a party that is truly reactionary in its thinking and the way it acts. Je suis fier de mon expérience comme Canadien, comme politicien. Je suis fier de ce que j'ai pu faire dans ma vie politique et je veux vraiment offrir mes services au Parti libéral pour que nous puissions faire battre à M. Harper et que nous puissions élire encore un gouvernement qui est vraiment progressiste et enfin libéral. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Our thanks to you all.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure, and I don't see why we can't get question period down to an hour a day. I'm going to hand it back over if you'll hang on to the Canadian Empire Clubs to close the event.
Thank you, Amanda. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Amanda, and thanks to all our candidates for being with us, and thank you, Martha, for showing up and gracing us with your presence. I will now call on John Niles, President of the Empire Club of Canada, to extend our formal thanks.
Madam President, candidates, honoured guests, directors, members of the Empire Club of Canada and the Canadian Club of Toronto. Franklin Adams, a journalist and radio personality, once commented, "When the political columnists say every thinking person, they mean themselves. And when candidates appeal to every intelligent voter, they mean those who are going to vote for them." We know that today there are many more intelligent voters than there were before. And so on behalf of the Empire Club of Canada and the Canadian Club of Toronto, we want to thank you so much for coming and speaking to us and to the Canadian people. Normally at this time, the Empire Club of Canada normally gives a book of speeches that has, from the previous year, as a gift, but this year and in this time I'll give only my own, how I became a father of 1,000 children. Thank you so much for your time.